All right, welcome to Ayurveda for all seasons. It is such a joy to be here with you, and we are streaming in all things Ayurveda as well as Ayurveda for all seasons. And I just want to check and make sure that I am here. Yes, I am. Okay, excellent. So welcome. This is Ayurveda for all seasons. We have such a special treat today. And I am going to bring in Dr. Manas Kshirshagar, and he's going to correct me, I'm sure. Hi, welcome. So let me tell you a little bit about Manas. Here we go. I'm so excited because today we're talking about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, which is stress management. And he is an expert in effective stress management. So he's going to talk to us about all things related to how Ayurveda can help us deal with stress in our lives. Let me tell you a little bit about him before I bring him on. Dr. Manas Kshirshagar is a NAMA board certified Ayurvedic doctor, and he actually graduated from the Aloha Ayurveda Academy and completed his MS in Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine from Maharishi University of Management. And he is an acclaimed wellness consultant who's traveled all over the country, developing wellness, Ayurvedic rituals and programs and protocols for hospitals, yoga studios, wellness clinics all around the country. And he's also done his work at the Raj Center there in Fairfield, Iowa, which, for those of you who know, is one of the most pristine Ayurvedic centers where you can go and have restorative Ayurvedic treatments. So he's a health educator. He's passionate about health and fitness. And through all of his time in Ayurvedic medicine and integrative medicine, he has created and specialized the effective way to handle and manage stress. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Dr. Manas so he can talk to us about this. Hello.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Annette, for having me.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. We are so excited to have you here. And will you just pronounce your name for me to make sure that I didn't...
You had it close. Kshirshagar.
Okay. I was like, I know this isn't it, but I can't.
That's
Okay.
all right. All three of us, my parents, my mother, father, myself, we all go by our first name. So it's always Dr. Suhas, Dr. Manas, Dr. Manisha. Nobody worries about the last name.
Excellent. Yeah. And we've got your father coming on in a couple of weeks. And that's how I know him too, as Dr. Shuhas. I never was able to pronounce his last name either. So yes. So Dr. Manas, so tell us, I have a burning question for you related to what's happening right now in light of, I guess, everything kind of coming back to normal, so to speak, after COVID. But have you seen more cases of stress now in, during COVID and post-COVID compared to pre-COVID, or is it about
ever before? Than ever before. Stress is at an all-time high. And fortunately, the conversation revolving stress and mental, emotional well-being and self-care is also at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. So the parallels are there, which is good. However, it's the effective stress management tools and techniques that aren't necessarily expressed in a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I always tell my patients there's two things that we can do. Okay. We can, one, get rid of the stress. You can quit your job, ditch the relationship, go start a tiki bar on the beach somewhere, and just rest, relax, just get rid of any stressors in your life. Or we can physiologically change the way your body responds to stress to where everything that happens to you or happens around you doesn't affect you quite as much. And that is by far a much more sustainable practice than eliminating stress or shielding, protecting yourself from stress. Nobody could have ever imagined that something like the pandemic would happen. Right? The amount of isolation that people were faced with, the amount of loneliness, fear, worry, anxiety, nervousness that people dealt with, just on a personal, emotional level, right? We're not even talking about uh, your boss calling you in for a private meeting, or you're getting into an argument with your spouse, or arguments with your children, or death in the family, or any major life events or stressors. We're talking about people could not stand the thought of being alone
Mm.
with their thoughts. And this was one of the biggest things that came out of the pandemic. And here at the clinic, we're honestly busier prior to the pandemic because of that reason. It is now empowering them to come in and take care of their own health and well-being. And that, I think, is for the best.
It's definitely, I would say, a blessing that has come out of the last couple of years, for sure, is it's highlighted the need for people to take care of their inner health, when perhaps it's so easy in the bustle and the moving of time and everything that happens in our modern society. It's so easy to just overlook what's really needed to be done.
Absolutely.
And so I completely agree. And I would love to ask you, so how does Ayurveda help us with stress? And I know you've got, this is your specialty. So I know we don't have like all day to talk about this, but what would you say? What are the things that Ayurveda gives us?
Sure. So there's, like you said, many different tools, tips, tricks that Ayurveda provides, specifically in terms of daily routine. Okay.
Mhm.
When we look at all things Ayurveda, the reason it's so efficient and impactful and uh, just powerful is because it is rooted in daily routine, dinacharya, what you do on a daily basis, right? Why do we brush our teeth? We brush our teeth because they get full of gunk and plaque buildup, right? They become dirty because we eat and drink every day. Right? The same way, we take on stressors every single day. And so, if we don't have an effective way to eliminate those minor stressors on a daily basis, well, then you're going to end up needing root canals, and you're going to have mental breakdowns, and you're going to need medications to really manage some of those thoughts and feelings that come up. And so, when you're able to incorporate small stress relieving self care routines in your daily practice, that really sets the tone.
Mhm.
One of the best tips that I always like to give, and this was almost like a freebie for anybody that came in during the pandemic, that was Abhyanga. Abhyanga just is a self oil massage. Okay,
Mhm.
there's so many different benefits of it. It's been clinically proven to improve lymphatic circulation, increase immunity. It's been shown to increase skin elasticity and skin strength. But more so than anything else, from an Ayurvedic perspective, Abhyanga, there's another word for Abhyanga, which is snehana. Sneha means love. And it's literally a form of self love when you're
Mhm.
massaging, caressing, and uh, rubbing oil on your body. And you're paying attention to small areas and aspects of the body that might not usually get that same level of care and attention. And so when you do this on a daily basis, it's a quick way for you to check in and see where your body and mind is at. Another very easy thing that we talk about is mindfulness. Okay? Um, Meditation is something I won't talk about. There's been so many people talking about meditation and its effects on stress and everything. I personally learned walking TM, transcendental meditation,
Mm.
when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. Um, Before you can get a kid to sit down for 15, 20 minutes at a time, you have to get them to actually start repeating and saying the mantra. And so you do a walking meditation with them. My parents, before dinner every night, we would shut off all the lights and we would sit and meditate for 15, 20 minutes. Obviously, me and my sister, we'd have one eye open and see what they're doing and get distracted just because we're kids. But it really set the tone for me later on in life. And one of the biggest things that comes out of mindfulness as opposed to meditation is mindfulness gives you the ability to think about your response before you react. And the easiest way that I ask my patients to do this is to always give yourself a second opinion, a second option. Okay. You wake up in the morning, you could roll over and check your phone, or you could go and drink some warm water, or you could drink some coffee, or you can go out in nature, right? Or just step outside. Those are 4 different options that you have the ability to choose from now. Whereas most of us, it's just sort of ingrained. You roll over, check the phone, see what you have to do, right? And start your day. There's so many different roads that I can take on my way to work, but I don't, right? I know the roads that I like. I know exactly where each stop sign is and stoplight is, and that's the one route that I take, even though there's hundreds of roads that I could take and get to the same place. Do I do that? No. Do I know that I have the option to? Yes. And so just giving yourself the active present moment awareness where you're choosing to drink wine with dinner as opposed to warm water after dinner. Giving yourself the choice to say, I'm going to go to bed early tonight, or I'm going to stay up watching Netflix. As long as you're making an active choice, that's fine. And I honestly, I tell my patients sometimes, I honestly don't care, okay, what choice you make, as long as you're allowing yourself to have those 2 options. Because then if you choose one over the other, you're making a decision, right? And then your body will respond. If you stay up late night binging Netflix, you feel tired and groggy and lethargic in the morning. Right? If you go to bed on time, you wake up rested, refreshed. And over time, if you make that same decision over and over and over again, it's like training a puppy, right? If you do it enough times, it becomes automatic, right? There's a very funny story that I always share with my patients. Okay, there was a gal that came to me with chronic constipation. Okay, I'm talking about going maybe once every week. Right? She was in pain. It was uncomfortable, just not good. Okay, and so we gave her a bunch of tools and tips and tricks and things like that. Drink enough water. She was on the road. She was driving for about 6 hours a day. And so she didn't want to drink a lot of water, so she didn't want to stop and go to the bathroom. She was eating, something from the drive-thrus or fast food, or eating while she was driving, so like power bars and snacks and things like that. And it was creating a lot of constipation. So I told her, look, just like when we potty train our babies, right? Even if you don't have to go, I want you to set an alarm on your phone and just go sit on the toilet. Make yourself comfortable, light a candle, bring a book, whatever it is. Just go and sit for 5 minutes. If nothing happens, get up, walk out. And so you do this over and over every single day. And I purposefully had her set an alarm, so it was at the same time every day. About 6 weeks later, during her follow-up, she comes in and says, Dr. Manas, I had to change my ringtone. I said, why is that? Every time my phone rang, I had to rush to the bathroom. And so there is such thing as muscle memory that allows our body to understand what decisions are beneficial for you and which decisions are not. Okay? And when we put ourselves into a routine, a daily pattern of doing things that alleviate minor stressors throughout the day, it helps build resilience. And that resilience has now become a buzzword in modern medical journals and research articles, simply because of the pandemic and the burnout that healthcare providers faced. And so we talk about resilience for frontline workers and healthcare workers and things like that, and how they were able to do what they did for so long and still live, essentially.
Yeah.
And this word resilience simply means the ability to recover and bounce back from a stressor. Interestingly, there was a study done on meditation, where they hooked up short-term versus long-term meditators to EEG monitoring and little electrodes. Okay. And they gave both groups a little zap and electrocuted them. Okay. And the area of the brain responsible for pain lit up in both groups. The only difference was in the long-term meditators, that area of the brain did not stay lit for quite as long. What does that tell us? It's not that they didn't feel the pain. It's that they were able to bounce back and recover from that pain much quicker and much easier than those short-term, or what we call crisis meditators.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, we're getting a lot of love in the chat. Happy to be here, feeling empowered in your choices. That was really, I really loved that. Talking about making sure that you have choices. So that, do you then directly relate that with lower stress when someone feels that they have choices and they're making an empowered choice for their body, whether it's, long-term, whatever the effects are long-term, that in and of itself, knowing you have choices, you relate that to overall better outcome with stress.
Absolutely. And the only reason for that is because it is fostering a connection with yourself.
I love that.
Which is something that's become severed, especially with modern technology, the amount of time that we spend on Zoom. Yeah, we're more connected than ever before. I could talk to you and all of you that are across the world, across the globe, in the nation. And yet, it's very hard to make any sort of connection. And because of that amount of external stimulus, my body is always looking outside for external validation. And so if I can draw some of that energy back inwards and just check in with myself and see what I need to do, how I'm feeling, what my body is trying to tell me, that's what present moment awareness does for you. That's what mindfulness does for you. It helps to refoster that connection with who you are genuinely and what your body needs.
Yeah, that's so good. And I mean, really, that's that you can go really deep with that too, about the external, how the world is, and just that separation of honoring our own voice and our own self. And that's, just that disconnection. I love how you're tying that into stress management. I think it's so important. And not a lot of people really realize how important that is, honoring their own self. And just the idea of the choices. I think in today's world, there's so much going on where people are feeling disempowered, looking to others for what they should do, and so again, this goes back into really honoring and building that connection with your own self, like you said. So I absolutely love that. And I love that you build that into what you do.
People sometimes forget that true and effective stress management and self-care is genuinely a spiritual journey. And all spirituality is connecting yourself to a higher power. Whether that's yourself with a capital S, right? Your consciousness, whether that's nature, whether that's a God, whether that's an entity, whatever it may be. But the spiritual path that we talk about, and doing some of the things that you do, practicing nonviolence, practicing truth, practicing good judgment, and all of these things, they're universal in every religion, every spiritual practice. And self-care is just doing those things for yourself. Because we're so hell-bent on the external environment, people forget that your external environment is a reflection of your internal environment, and vice versa. If you have a calm and centered physiology, you will naturally reverberate those same qualities into your friend circle, into your community. And that's the energy that you will put out into the world. If you have a very chaotic mind and unstructured and racing thoughts, then that's what the world will experience from you. And so when we're able to understand the thoughts and shifts that we make in terms of our self-care, we're actually creating a spiritual path.
It's so good. It's such an important message that everybody needs to hear. It's pretty crazy how much just having a daily routine can really change your life. Yes, Lisa. Yes. How important is just spending time in nature to our wellness and resilience? Okay. Yeah. What do you have to say about that?
Excellent question. Absolutely. Especially during the pandemic, that was one of my recommendations, especially here in beautiful Santa Cruz, where I'm at. There is a lot of nature and just gorgeous settings, whether it's redwood trees or the ocean or different parks, uh, that fostering a connection with nature, especially first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening. Okay, if you can watch the sunrise and sunset every single day, there used to be an app for the iPhone that has since been discontinued, but you can still check what time sunrise and sunset is. But the app used to set an alarm 5 minutes prior to sunrise and prior to sunset. And so you could go out and experience that.
How convenient.
Yeah. But you can still do that yourself. And so if you can experience the sunrise and sunset, not only does it automatically auto-regulate your circadian rhythms and circadian cycles, but it instills that same energy into your physiology. Okay. When you physically watch the sun go down, it promotes melatonin secretion. It is telling your body that, hey, now is the time to sit around the campfire and rest and relax. Right? This is the rest and digest that we're talking about. When you see that sun come up in the morning, okay, this is literally your endorphins and cortisol coming in, telling you that, okay, it's time to get to work. And then you see it. Animals have the most abundant energy first thing in the morning. And so if you're up at that Brahma Muhurta, which is the moment before sunrise, 5:30, 6 a.m., whatever it is, depending on where you live, there's a natural abundance of energy around you, right? Everything around you is waking up at the same time, and you should follow suit. What's the first thing that animals do when they wake up from sleep? What do cats and dogs do? They stretch, right? They don't roll over and check Instagram or Facebook, right? They don't do any of these things that are so sort of unnatural. They go outside and they pee and poop, right? They want something small, and so they eat breakfast. And so all of these things is taught to us by nature. And it's funny because we get all of these patients and they want natural remedies for doing unnatural things. And we go, that's not how it works. So sometimes it's a little bit of a bartering situation with our patients, because yes, it's not easy to live according to the laws of nature every single day, day in and day out. It's possible. But what can you do to foster and incorporate that into your practice as much as possible?
Yeah, and these are simple things you can do. For someone who doesn't meditate, let's say, or doesn't have a practice yet of doing something on a daily basis, like you're saying, if they wanted to take that simple practice of, going right before sunrise and right before sunset, do you recommend that they develop a meditation practice, or just sit out there by themselves, quiet with their thoughts, or just gaze lightly at the sun? What do you recommend that they do?
Even before that practice starts, okay? Because for a lot of people, it's difficult to sit with their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't have the proper mindset, it becomes impossible. So even before that, my recommendation to people is figure out an active meditation practice. So there's only two types of meditation, passive and active. Okay. Active, the mind is still focused on something. This could be your breath rate. This could be your heart rate. This could be a mantra. This could be like you're listening to a guided or community meditation. Okay. But something where you're thinking about other than what you have to do that day or the next day or what someone said to you or anything apart from you. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so it sort of distracts you from your own thoughts. That's active meditation, where the mind is active. That's where I recommend people start. Mm-hmm. Passive meditation comes when you're trying to elongate the gap in between your thoughts, right? Usually what we call a train of thought, a succession of events, right? There's a small gap in between thoughts. And the easiest way for me to explain it to people is the moment right before you fall asleep. You're still aware of your body. You still know that you're awake. But do you remember the last thing that you thought of before you went to sleep? No, right? It's that little moment where, imagine if you could stay in that moment for 15, 20 minutes. That's passive meditation. Okay. So I recommend people start with active meditation. Sit out there and feel your pulse. Keep your hand on your heart.
What a great idea. Yeah.
Or count your breath. Seconds in, seconds out. Right? And so this is a way for you to keep focus on something other than your thoughts.
Fabulous, fabulous tips. And what about someone who does, let's say, a breath work practice and isn't able to settle enough to go into meditation? Like if they've been years of doing a breathwork practice, do you think there's still benefit of continuing? Like, is there a progression where the end goal is silent meditation, or do you think you could still manage everything with continuing a breath or a mantra practice? I particularly really love mantra regimen.
So mantra, breath work, these are all pathways, gateways in order to create a more subtle physiology. And the goal of meditation is to make the body more efficient at what it does. And so when you're in a state of meditation, the reason people that meditate for long hours don't need quite as much sleep is because of that reason. Their body is in a very subtle restorative zone that allows them to still heal while they're quote unquote conscious, right? And so these are all pranayama, meditation, even yoga are tools to create a more subtle, Ayurveda is a tool to create a more subtle physiology. The goal with breath work is to quiet the breath, right? We usually have a very shallow respiration, right? Especially people who have high stress response or high adrenal functioning. They're breathing very shallow or even through their mouth, right? And so you're trying to elongate and create a more subtle breath. With yoga, right? Asana practice is good, right? I always recommend people who have a hard time in meditation to practice an active form of yin yoga, where it's still very, very slow. You might even fall asleep in some of the postures in some of the asanas, but that's a good way to quiet the body. Okay. Same thing with Ayurveda. There's certain herbs and things that we do to create a more efficient digestive system, nervous system, respiratory system, to make it more and more efficient.
Oh, I love that explanation. I love that. Making the body more efficient is the goal and the purpose of meditation. It's so, so good. And, I know we don't have that much more time with you, Dr. Manas, but I do want to ask, you were talking about ways of the stress, to manage your stress, and you were talking about Abhyanga and Snehana. What other tips, and you've sprinkled some, but what other big ones do you recommend as well while we're still here?
Sure.
Self-care and stress management.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about today was systematic stressors. Okay. And this will answer your question. It'll be different for different people, but systematic stressors is when you submit your body to very brief periods of high stress. And then that stressor is over, is finished, is completed. And so your body understands that after this high stress response, there will be a return to the parasympathetic nervous system activation, which is that rest and digest mode. Okay. Let me give you an example. Whenever I lecture at yoga studios, I always start off by saying yoga is stressful or yoga causes stress. And people look at me funny. They go, no, it's the opposite. Yeah, yoga relieves stress. I go, no. If I asked you to do a handstand right now, okay, or get into lotus, your body would be in a state of stress. Okay. Usually when you go to a yoga class, you don't know what the instructor is going to ask of you. You don't know how your body's going to feel. You don't know which asanas you'll have to do. But what you do know is at the end, during Savasana, that stressor is now over. It is now complete. That you never have to think about that ever again. Right? Very seldom in life do we have a resolution to our stressors. If you're worried about money, if you're worried about health, your family, your work, whatever it is, these are lifelong stressors. They will always be there. But if you can figure out a way to infuse, let's say, exercise as a systematic stress, okay, or doing a puzzle or Sudoku, something for very short amounts of time that stimulate the mind or the physical body to think that it's in a state of stress. And then there's a resolution to that stress. That's how the body feels relaxed. That's how the body learns to build resilience. That's how your body learns to bounce back and recover from that stress. Knowing that same muscle memory that we talked about, knowing that this is not a permanent state of stress that the body will be in, that this too will end. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that.
There's a very popular method for systematic stressors out there. I necessarily don't agree with the concept, with the method, but it's become very popular. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. And like I said, while I don't agree, it's a good way for the body to understand how systematic stress works. And that's the Wim Hof method. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah, so submitting yourself to an ice bath or very cold temperatures for short amounts of time, and then getting into a warm shower or a steam sauna or something like that to tell your body, hey, everything is A-okay. Right? You won't freeze to death. And so while that's a very dramatic and drastic stressor, you can do small ones every single day. You can submit yourself to quick jump rope or high intensity interval exercise. Okay. You can go for a hike where your body is really strenuous and working out. Or you can stimulate the mind. Say, I'm going to complete this task in 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm going to set my alarm or set a ringtone for how long it takes me to finish this puzzle. Right? Whatever it is, for short amounts of time is what will create more resilience throughout the lifetime than figuring out what you can do to get rid of or eliminate those stress.
Interesting. So it's the stressors themselves, the little stresses that you can create, but manage, right? That you can manage because you know there's going to be a resolution. That's building resiliency and the ability to lower your stress over time. When you
Let me give you an
right,
example.
I love this. This is fabulous. I never knew this.
We always think of stress as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? The same way we think of inflammation as a bad thing. Inflammation is inherently a good thing. It's created, it's formed to protect the body. And that's the same thing what stress is. Whenever you get a cut on your skin, okay, how does that cut heal? Well, the blood coagulates, it thickens, it forms a scab, right? And then the skin is rehealing and rebuilding underneath and comes together. And then that scab falls off, right? Imagine if every cut, scrape, bruise you got in your entire life never went away. What would your body look like? Pretty gruesome, right?
Yeah.
And so that is the definition of chronic inflammation. When that inflammatory response never goes away, it never dissipates, or it takes an overly long time to dissipate. And so same thing with stress. If you have a stress response, that's a good thing. It means you're alive, right? But just as quickly or just as sudden as that stress response came on, you should be able to alleviate that stress response. And if that stress response never goes away, Well, that's what chronic stress is. And
Mm.
that's what we're experiencing, especially in today's modern world.
Yeah.
It takes 8 hours for those stress hormones, right? Adrenaline, epinephrine, cortisol, norepinephrine, to dissipate out of the bloodstream. That means you have to go 8 hours without having a stress response. How long do you think people go?
Yeah. No.
The average is 26 minutes.
Wow.
Okay. Heading out the door, right? Going to work is a stress response. Can't find your keys, that's a stress response. Getting stuck in traffic, that's a stress response. Before you even get to your desk, you've had 4 or 5 stressors, right? And now it's going to take 40 hours for all of those hormones to leave your bloodstream. It's impossible to play catch up at that rate.
No. Wow. Yeah, this is amazing. That's amazing. So let me ask you, how about with herbs? What do you say are the top 3 herbs that reduce, and I know this is a big question, but it doesn't have to be the best 3, but 3 that come to mind that anyone can take that's going to calm the mind or calm down anxiety or make them feel okay. What would
Sure.
you suggest?
The top Ayurvedic herb that we like to give for stress is tulsi, which is holy basil. Okay. This is something that's in every Indian household and is usually given to children when they go to school, before they go to school, to calm down and support the central nervous system. Okay. And so not only is it calming, is it a nervine tonic for the body, but it's also very supporting and rejuvenative for the nervous system. Okay. So tulsi is probably my favorite. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are many different herbs that are very, very good for pacifying, one, the vata dosha, but specifically quieting the mind. Brahmi or Bacopa moneri is another one. There's 2 forms of Brahmi. One is Scintilla asiatica, and the other is Bacopa moneri. The Bacopa form is a little bit more calming and settling for the central nervous system. So Brahmi is an excellent one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, if you go to any PetSmart or Petco and ask them for aquarium decoration, right, live aquarium decoration, they will give you Brahmi because it needs a lot of water. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
A
Wow.
lot of water. And they're very bitter, both of these, Tulsi, Brahmi, Shankapushpi, these are all very bitter herbs. And that's why it's very good for the Vata dosha and pacifying the overexcitation and overstimuli of the mind.
Great. So Shankapushki also you would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, this was really, really amazing to get this information from you directly. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all of these amazing management tools for stress. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover before we let you go? I know you have to get back to your busy
No,
practice, but
not at all.
Oh, I had one more question.
Sure.
So I know that you practice yoga, and obviously we talked about meditation and the breath work and all the different types. Of course, nutrition is a big part of what you do, but you also integrate Reiki. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you about that. What is Reiki's role and energy work in general in reducing stress? What does it do to the body or to the mind, or how would you explain that?
So
And
once you
for those
start,
who don't know, Reiki is a form of energy work.
once you start working with energy and energy fields, it really becomes just as physical and palpable as the physical body. And I'm sure all of you have experienced it at some point. You walk into a room and you're just instantly drawn to a specific person. Or there's certain people in your life who just exude a sense of calm, and stability, and strength and groundedness. And there's the opposite, people that are always just sort of high wired, high powered, and up in the air and anxious and nervous all the time. And chaotic. And so when you feel these energies, Reiki is a very good way to shift some of that energy and Reiki is an excellent tool to move energy from certain areas of the body, okay, to whether it's stuck in a certain area or to cleanse the body of that energy. Okay. Whenever somebody is in a chaotic situation, okay, for a long period of time, right, they take on that energy, right? Emotions the word emotions are nothing but to emote, that is energy in motion. Mm-hmm. And so we pick up on all of these energetics every single day, right? If I was to show you, a beautiful picture, a beautiful mandala that is all symmetrical and one equal pattern and very sort of calming and beautiful to look at, okay, it instills a sense of peace. If I was to show you a piece of modern art that was very chaotic or, lavish artwork, it would stimulate the mind. And so these energies that you're having, the emotions that you're having to an external stimuli, is actually a physical response. And that energy is stored somewhere in the body. In my book, Panchakarma, The Art and Science of Detoxification and Rejuvenation, I jokingly talk about the issues in your tissues, okay, where every thought, every emotion has a physiological correlate that's stored in the body. And it's these emotions, it's these energies that need to be moved and worked on through Reiki, through yoga, through meditation, through breathwork, through all of these sort of multi-modalities that we have at our disposal.
I love it. Great.
And
Well,
for anybody interested in learning about more of these or what we do, we'll provide a link to our clinic and all of the information that we have. You can take a look at all of our consultations and services and treatments. We have an in-residence facility here, so people come and stay with us during treatments.
Tell the listeners where you are. Where are you?
We're in beautiful Santa Cruz, California. And so it's almost like a destination for people to come and stay and experience a little bit of a vacation while they're going through their healing process.
Now, are you in the same practice as your father, as Dr.
Yes.
Schuha? Yes, in the same.
Yes.
Okay. I thought so. Yes, it's so wonderful. We have one question here in the chat on Seva being important for mental health. I read an article where you touched on that, and I'm wondering why it's important to be one of the 6 ways to care for your mental health.
Seva and Bhakti Yoga and all of these practices are exceptional in order to create gratitude within the body. Okay? And something as simple as helping a person in need, picking up a piece of trash, taking care of an animal. Okay, there's many different forms of service that one can perform. But when you perform service without an attached intention, without an attached emotion of expectation or of return, right, you're putting your beautiful energy out into that world. And when we do more and more of this, it builds in the sense of community that you have. And so if you ever go to an ashram or if you ever go to a setting, a facility that has Seva or has volunteers do a lot of the work, you will see just how genuine these people are because they have no expectations of return. And the environment itself, the energy of that place itself is abundant because there's so much to give, whether it's love, whether it's, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. The boon can be time, money, effort, love, energy, care, anything and everything.
Well, Dr. Manas, you are so wonderful to speak to, and I just wanted to thank you again for being here. I know that we need to go, but you've been absolutely wonderful and very generous to drop that offer for people to talk to you. So we'll put that link in.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to offer a free 15-minute consultation for anybody.
Oh, wonderful.
Just send us an email or give us a call, and either myself or my father, my mother, we'd be happy to talk to you and see if Ayurveda is right for you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. And we hope that all of you watching this from home or from work or wherever you are in the world are having a beautiful, beautiful day. And I hope that you're feeling the love coming from us to you, Dr. Manas, and our appreciation for you being here with us today. Much love to all of you. Have a beautiful, blessed day. May 6th. It's beautiful. And in anticipation
Thank you, everybody.
of today, everyone have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Bye-bye.